so, because well, it depends. I don't know. How do you feel? You want to address the camera? Do you want to address me? Do you want to all right, I'll tell you what.
It depends. Sometimes they like to do these things where you're not facing the camera,
yeah,
like you're
well,
talking to
let's do it
somebody.
this way. So this way, it's right here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. You roll. Just tell me what you thought of Leon Charney.
So I'll look at you.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Leon Charney was an extraordinary man, combining many very positive characteristics. I got to know him over 20 years ago when I was running for president. He had a show here in New York on Channel 1, a conversational show. And what was amazing about that show was you could actually have a conversation on real issues. You didn't have to do the soundbite. You could actually get into depth. And even though in many respects we might have been on the opposite side in the political spectrum, he came across as an individual who respected intellectual debate, who wanted to learn. One of his attributes was that he was curious. So I enjoyed being on a show, whether it was discussing politics, economics, or the Forbes rich list. He was also a very generous man, believed in philanthropic works, but also understood a basic truth that sounds so simple, you feel simplistic in saying it. And that is, just ask yourself the difference between us today as human beings and people in the Stone Age. I mean, even though we're have the same bodies, same appetites, same planet, the difference between us and them is that we know more. It's just basically more knowledge. And Leon Charney understood that the basis of progress is knowledge and getting more knowledge through experimentation. And that's how he became connected to Haifa University. Leon recognized that one of the great unexplored areas of the earth, that sounds like there wouldn't be much to explore, but is the oceans. The oceans have not been, much exploration has been done. Some of the huge breakthroughs have just been in the last 100 years. For centuries, people denied what maps showed, and that is we once had a common land mass on this planet. And so in terms of the canyons and the ocean floors, that was after World War II. A lot of those canyons were discovered. So Leon knew that this was an area of huge opportunity in terms of exploration, and so he set up the Marine Center with Haifa University to explore this great, the last frontier on the Earth, underwater. And the opportunities are huge. Obviously, the natural gas is a natural one, but in terms of resources, in terms of antibiotics from plants on the ocean floor, huge, huge opportunities. And so he recognized that, and that's what was exciting about Leon Charney, is that he was always looking for new things. And whether it was mundane things like trading Ginnie Mae securities, he did that better than anyone else. Seeing the possibilities of Times Square before anyone else back in the early 80s when this Times Square was just a dump, derelict area. He saw the huge possibilities for it and was willing to put the resources and take the risks to do it. He was always helpful when I had business questions or needed some assistance. He was willing to provide it. So he was an all-around man. And I think how he chose his wife, Zelie, is amazing. When he had the stroke over 6 years ago, the doctors told her it was over. No heroic measures necessary. She wouldn't hear of it. She quartered back amazing recovery, and he had 6 good years of life. So he chose well in numerous areas, whether it was taking a chance for peace, working with Jimmy Carter, in helping make possible the peace talks that led to the agreement between Israel and Egypt in the late 1970s, which is Jimmy Carter's greatest achievement as president. Leon Charney played a key role there. He did several documentaries, both on that and on historical issues. He had a profound interest in Judaism, and beyond just what you learn as a kid, beyond just being a great cantor, he wanted to learn more and more about it. So whether it was philanthropy, commerce, curiosity, being loyal to friends. He stayed loyal to Jimmy Carter when many others didn't, and Carter put off a lot of people. Leon Charney stuck with him and saw what the positive attributes were. So overall, a remarkable man, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to know him, to work a little with him, and I owed him a lot. It was through him that I got my honorary degree from Haifa University several years ago. Having barely scraped through undergraduate school, I always loved getting a doctorate and not having to do anything for it, especially from a prestigious university. So I was thrilled.
Tell me what you think about, because we touched on this, and the Middle East, of course, is a big touchstone now, especially with what's going on. Tell me what you thought about Leon Charney's view on the Middle East and his pursuit of peace.
Well, Leon Charney understood that peace requires, obviously, diplomacy, and he demonstrated that with the work he did between Egypt and Israel. Menachem Begin, not the easiest guy to work with. Sadat, who wanted to get things done. Jimmy Carter, going into unfamiliar territory. And Leon helped make possible that achievement. So he understood the power of diplomacy, but he also understood that you have to have the right environment. That if you have economic prosperity and you create conditions where you get the emergence of a middle class, not only obviously in Israel itself, which has become a great technological powerhouse, even though it's a nation of only 8 million, but also among Israel's neighbors. And he never discussed it, but I think it must have been in the back of his mind that the peace you have now in Northern Ireland, ending the sectarian violence, you always know it can go bad again, was the extraordinary economic success of the Irish Republic. Set the conditions for a huge political change in Northern Ireland. I think he understood that if you create conditions where you may not love your neighbor, but you might want to do business with your neighbor, you set the conditions where diplomacy would work in the future. So he was a man enough of the world and understood history enough to know these things don't go in a straight direction and you just don't snap your fingers and will something to be done. But he also understood that you try to create the conditions where new forces rise up, new conditions rise up that might make it possible to reach agreements step by step.
Do you miss him, and do you think he'll be missed?
I think Leon will be missed because he combined so many positive attributes. We're all human. But he demonstrated, one, what Abraham Lincoln loved, people starting with very little, and as Lincoln put it, improve your lot in life. Leon lost his father at a fairly young age. He put himself through school, no small part from the earnings he got as a cantor. Became a great lawyer, became successful as an agent, but also went into the political arena, was always going into various avenues in the world, and demonstrating that you don't have to be narrow, you don't have to be siloed to do great things. You can master things and use that as a baseboard to learn more. One of his great attributes was curiosity. If you don't lose curiosity, then your spirit's never going to die. And he never lost that curiosity, or always marveled, and what he saw in the oceans demonstrated. He demonstrated here on the earth. There's a lot we have to learn, and he wanted to do his part to begin to learn it.
I think my opinion is his intellect was great, but also guided a great deal by intuition. Does that sort of intellect exist today?
Well, intellect, you can have great brain power, but as we've seen time and time again, that guarantees nothing. It's like a baseball player who may have speed, doesn't guarantee either success in base running or success on the mound or anything else. It's how you use it. It's how you develop it, what you learn from it. Well, one of the myths is that we arrive full-blown in terms of what we achieve in life. Now, oftentimes it's from the give and take and making mistakes and interacting, learning as you go, seeing what works and doesn't work. And so it's not just looking at a sheet of paper and seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Life doesn't always work that way. And so Leon's intuition, yes, you do develop what marks you from others is that sixth sense of understanding or beginning to see around the corner, as they say, that others don't. And I think that was propelled in part by his curiosity and taking the initiative. When he worked with a U.S. senator, a senator from Indiana way back when, Vance Hartke, he used that as a way of meeting global leaders, including Golda Meir in Israel. And so he played a part in helping spring Jews from the Soviet Union back when getting out was a pretty hard thing to do. So he didn't see just things in the narrow confine. He was always expanding the boundaries.
That's great.
Yeah. What do we got,
I don't know what else
15
to
minutes?
say.
I don't know what else to say.
We got like 11 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
No,
If there's really nothing
did
else
it.
to say, you did it, and thank you very much.